We have also been joined by one of our speakers, respected Mr. Ninong Ering sir, who is co-chair of Interparliamentary Alliance on China. I welcome you, sir, to this session. And if you can momentarily unmute yourself so that we can check the audio at your end. Sir, if you can say something so that we can check the audio at your end, Ninong sir.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, absolutely. Your audio is quite clear, sir. I welcome you, sir, to this session. We'll be beginning this session very shortly. Thank you, sir. Jain, sir.
You can join this Chinese religious come. You can come up. Oh, I'm in this thing.
I welcome. I welcome all the participants who are joining us today in this Red Lantern Analytica webinar on PRC's plan of hydro warfare and the recent floods in China. I welcome all the participants and our respected panel members today. We have been joined by Mr. Ninong Ering, sir, co-chair of Interparliamentary Alliance on China. We have also been joined by Mr. Vijay Kanti, sir, who is senior journalist and Tibetologist. He is also the chairman of Center for Himalayan Asia Studies and Engagement. We have also been joined by Dr. J. Jagannathan, sir, from Jawaharlal Nehru University. Our rest of the panel members will be joining shortly, but we'll now begin this session. And before beginning the session and inviting our panel members to share their views on this topic of today, I'll invite Ms. Shalini from the team of Red Lantern Analytica to extend a welcome address to our speakers, after which we'll be inviting Ninong Gering sir for his views. Shalini ji, if you can hear me, over to you.
Thank you so much, sir. Good evening to all our Indian participants and a very warm welcome to all our esteemed speakers who have joined us today. Thank you so much for taking precious time out of your busy schedules to discuss a topic which is very important for all of us today. Let me tell you guys about the topic for our Indian participants. The topic for today's webinar is PRC's, that is People's Republic of China's plan of hydro warfare and the recent floods in China. Water can be a trigger of conflict and even be used as a weapon of war. In historical context, Chinese philosopher Sun Tzu compared water and army in a metaphor. Since then, countries like Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, Thailand, the Philippines, they all have been facing the consequences of China's weaponization of water. And one of the major tenets of weaponization of water is by constructing dams at upper riparian areas, thereby depriving the river system of its natural ecosystem and killing its ecosystem in the downstream countries. The most prominent examples of this tactic used by China is the dam building activities on Mekong and Brahmaputra rivers. Even though the Mekong River is considered one of the most fertile rivers in the world, the Mekong Basin in the downstream areas has seen severe drought periods in the last few years due to the 11 dams built by China at its origin in upstream Tibet. As a result of this, there have been floods as a natural consequence in other areas, which is a completely man made phenomenon. Even during the Doklam issue of 2017, China refused to share hydrological data with India, and this resulted in the unusual flooding in Assam on the Brahmaputra River. China is increasingly using dams as safe walls to leverage geopolitical disputes, but is severely toying with the environment. The recent floods in China is also a result of the unintelligent infrastructure building and such engagements of hydro warfare by China, more on which we will learn today at our webinar. And I once again welcome everyone to this webinar. Over to you, Siddharth, sir.
Thank you, Shalini ji, for extending a warm welcome to all our participants. I'll now like to invite Mr. Ninong Iring, who is the co-chair of Interparliamentary Alliance on China and a MLA representing Pasighat West constituency of Arunachal Pradesh. So that is a very border area between the LAC of India and Tibet. And sir has been a supporter of Red Lantern Analytica from quite some time. I welcome you, sir. And I'll now invite you for sharing your views on this topic of today. Over to you, Ninong, sir.
Good evening, everyone, Shalini, and on the whole group, and our esteemed guest. Let me be very frank, I am slightly now preoccupied, but still because Red Lantern is a part of me, and I really wanted to, share my views. Of course, I'll be busy now because our Honorable Union Minister, Mr. Kiran Rijiju, also just coming here to a funeral. So I was here in the funeral, but I took out time and just I wanted to share my views. Mr. Kiran Rijiju, our Honorable Union Minister, Science is also here with me. He just come, so I'll be busy with him. But as the topic is very important, because being a member of the IPAC and also because I'm in, always with issues with the Chinese dams, because you can say in the Zangmo area, uh, they have got about three dams, which are very dangerous, and that's the reason why we have a lot of siltation in the downstreams of, we call it the Siang River, the upper portion of Brahmaputra. When it is in Arunachal, it is called Siang. So Siang River, just like in the flooding of the Chinese, now the whole China has been flooded, is because of not adhering to the basic necessities of what we have to keep with nature. They continue making their dams, and now a very big dam is going to come up just above. They have started sorry, sorry, sorry. I have some problems. Yeah.
It's totally all right.
So, maybe a call was coming. So what happened is that they are going to construct a very big dam, which will, like you and Nalini was saying, it will be just like that of this Mekong. It will become a desert if this dam is made and the river is diverted to the Xinjiang province, the desert region of China. So what I wanted to tell this, all these experts who are here with us, that we have to raise this voice, and even let it be in parliament, let it be in our assembly, because our assembly is just going to be from the 4th is going to resume. So I really am going to speak also on that, on the dams and the issue of the water conservation, and especially in the Indian side, we don't have any dam. So there is no, water agreement with China, and that is the reason we have a very big problem. Now, the people here, the NGOs and the self-help groups, they are the environmentalists. They're making issues that we should not have dams here. It's okay. Big dams are not very encourageable here. But when you see that China is making so many dams, a series of dams, and now the biggest dam, which is, must be about 60,000 megawatt dam, they are saying they're going to build. So it is complete. The river is going to be diverted to China, to the Xinjiang province, and then we become a desert. Of course, we have a small sources of the rivers, but these rivers will not suffice for the downstream of Assam or even in Bangladesh. So it's a very serious threat that China is making to us, and we have to contain ourselves. We have to take it to the international level also. And the Honorable External Affairs Minister has also given his comment. Our Home Minister, our Defense Minister are saying that these dams should not be made, or Arunachal is an integral part of India, and all these issues are there. But like I was saying, when I'm always objected to it, in the last 2000 flood, you can see so much land was inundated. Even now, the areas of Mahabo, Mer, Napsing, Gadong, the whole area is being, devastated. So I think through these forums, if it can be, you know, raised throughout the country, or even amongst the legislators, or even the parliamentarians, I'm sure that it's a serious threat to India and Bangladesh. The whole of Arunachal Pradesh, the whole of Assam and Bangladesh will be facing the consequences if the Chinese construct this very big dam. So my take is that we have to stop this dam, which is going to be constructed in China. And through Red Lantern, I'm sure you're always keeping touch with us. We hope that in future also, uh, you know, such programs are there, and our voice reach the parliamentaries in Delhi. Thank you.
Sir, for enlightening us with your views on this topic. We have also been joined by Mr. Ajay Dutt, who is a member of Inter-Parliamentary Alliance on China, and he is also a MLA representing Ambedkar Nagar constituency of Delhi. I welcome you, sir, to this session. And we have also been joined by Mr. Ranju Dodum, who has been a journalist and has been covering the northeast part of India extensively. I'll now like to invite Mr. Ajay Dutt, sir, for expressing his views on this topic of today. Over to you, Ajay, sir.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. And I thank uh, the organization who has actually organized this very important and critical event. Uh, uh, I think there are some people who have their mics on, so it is.
Yes, sir. It's now muted, sir, and I think there will be no disturbance now. Please go
So,
ahead, sir.
ladies and gentlemen, and distinguished guests, and all the fellow citizen and everybody available in this forum, today we are gathered to discuss a matter of utmost importance that has reached implications for the sustainability and well-being of the nation in this region. The topic of this topic is very serious. Actually, these topics also bring China, and there are several other countries like India and Bangladesh, because it is all about the water and the water resources. And water has already been a source of life, a precious commodity that sustained ecosystem, livelihood, and economies. The river of Asia, such as the Brahmaputra and the Mekong River, have served as many lives from the beginning of the human history, and also uh, providing the water for agriculture, transportation, for energy, for everything, you can say, the factories and extra. However, in recent developments, we have seen there are concerns, there are consequences, which is basically uh, uh, because of the China constructing the dams and the bridges over this river and this water body. So it's a very serious concern, especially for the Bangladesh, and also for the India and a neighboring country. The Brahmaputra River is a lifeline for both India and Bangladesh. It is it is basically the natural resources, and millions of people lives are depend upon these rivers. The Chinese plan to build dam on the upper reach of Brahmaputra have ignored many people, and also stopping their livelihood, which could affect their agriculture, fishing, their overall water availability. So it's a very serious issue at this point in time. And similarly, the Mekong River plays an essential role in the social ecosystem of this Southeast Asia, as Chinese plans for hydropower project on the upper Mekong unfold concerns about alerting water flows. and it also disrupt the transportation and the ecosystem of uh, various natural processes, and also downstream the nations like Vietnam, Cambodia, and Thailand. This country depends heavily on the Mekong River for fishing, agriculture, transportation, and also, for human life for their daily use. So, therefore, it is crucial for China to disengage in this kind of activities, and also uh, communicate do the communication with them and their neighbor countries, so that this dam construction can be prohibited. International cooperation and information sharing uh, are essential to access and uh, also to mitigate the potential risk associated with the alternating reverse flow. The damming uh, of the river should be uh, approached with a holistic perspective that takes into account the social, economic, and environmental consequences for the national involvement. In the light of this concern, the international community, include organizations such as the United Nations and the World Bank, has a role to play in facilitating dialogues and negotiation amongst the nations sharing these rivers. Bilateral and multilateral discussions can help establish framework for equitable water sharing, environmental protection, and sustainable development. These frameworks can ensure that the as uh, the all nations are respected while managing the negative impact on uh, downstream communities. Uh, in conclusion, the Chinese plan to dam river like Brahmaputra and the Mekong are indeed a cause of concern, particularly for lower uh, ripening countries like India and Bangladesh. The potential disruption to water availability, agriculture, and economic could have far-reaching consequences for millions of people. It is essential for all the nations involved to come together in a spirit of cooperation, dialogue, and mutual respect to address this concern and find sustainable solution. Let us remember that the water knows no boundaries. It flows seamlessly across nation and sustain life beyond boundaries. Our collective responsibility is to ensure that our action today do not compromise the well-being of future generation. By fostering collaboration and respecting the rights of all nations to water security, we can transform the potential threat posed by damming into an opportunity for regional prosperity, uh, harmony, and lasting peace. So, in totality, I think it become very important for all of us to request our uh, you know countries, men's and parliamentarian, and also have more dialogue so that the life of uh, people who are based on Brahmaputra and Mekong River can be saved for today and also for future. So thank you for inviting me in this critical discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your views. And I'll now like to invite Mr. Vijay Kanti, sir, who has been a senior journalist. He is also a Tibetologist and a chairman of Center for Himalayan Asian Studies and Engagement. He also has visited Tibet personally, and he must be having various insights as to the experiences which he had when he visited Tibet back then. I welcome you, sir, to this session. And over to you, sir, for your views. Thank you.
Thank you. I must take first your permission that if I go for 15 or a little more, 15 minutes or a little more time, that fits in today's program. Is it okay?
No issues at all.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I would try to present a wholesome picture of how the situation is concerning the water situation related to Tibet and China. And even at the risk of repeating a few facts which have been already mentioned by learned speakers and our friend Shalini, who introduced the subject, so that I can put everything in the right perspective. So please bear with me if there is some repetition of facts or I speak few things which you already know. When we are talking of water and China, we should, the very first point is, it is not Chinese water. It is Tibet's water. This is a very basic fact which the world community must not forget when they deal with the water issue in Asia. So all this entire water belongs to Tibet. And there are 9 rivers which are feeding 12 countries, and all the 9 rivers come from Tibet. And that's the reason why Tibet has been given so many names. One popular name is the roof of world because of its geographic position. But because of water, Tibet is known as Water Tower of Asia, because it supplies water to a very, very big part of Asia. It holds water in the form of rivers, in the form of snow, in the form of glaciers. And that's why it is called third pole, because after the north and south pole on earth, which hold the real bulk of water, Tibet is the third place, which is the largest source of fresh water. This is the beauty of water in Tibet, that it is not salt water like the lake, some lakes or the sea. It is fresh water, which is ready for consumption of human society. And Tibet is holding the largest ice sheet as compared to other places, and this is third place, as I said, after north and south pole. The 9 rivers which start from Tibet are the Indus, we call Sindh Nadi in India, Brahmaputra, which is called Yalung Tsampo in Tibet, Satluj, Karnali, Yangtze, Yellow River, Mekong, Salween, Karnali. So these are 9 major rivers whose source is Tibet. And the countries which are fed by these rivers there are 12 countries. And it's not a small number. We start from Pakistan on the west, and then is India, and then is Nepal, and Bhutan, Myanmar, Bangladesh, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam. And all these countries, their fate of a very large population of these countries relies on these rivers, which come from Tibet. But as the history tells us, China occupied Tibet in 1951. They first occupied the eastern part of Tibet when PLA attacked Tibet in October 1950. They occupied a big part of it, defeated Chinese Tibetan army, and then used this lever to arm twist Dalai Lama to agree for what they call a 17-point agreement, which China claims it was done with mutual understanding. And unfortunately, that is not true. It was under duress. So anyhow, that is a part of politics. But that has to be told so that we know why Tibetan water is under control of China, why the rest of Asia is worried about its fate concerning water, and why it is worried of China and not any other country. So that this part we must understand to keep everything in the right perspective. Coming to these rivers, Yangtze is the longest river of Asia. It's more than 6,300 kilometers, and it passes through the entire length of China. So it is, one of the greatest feeding lines for China. Yellow River, its original name in Tibetan is Machu. And Yellow River, when it enters China, it becomes a Yellow River. When it is in Tibet, it is called Machu. This is the cradle of Chinese civilization since very, very long history. And it is not only China. This river feeds 7 countries, Machu or Yellow River. And these 7 countries are Tibet, China, Burma, which is we called Myanmar, Laos, Cambodia, Thailand, and Vietnam. And then another big river, which is called Mekong. Its original Tibetan name is Zachu. So this river has been a source of dispute and problems with so many countries, because in 1990s, Chinese started erecting many dams, which affected the fate of Myanmar, Thailand, and Laos. So when China created so many dams in 1990s in Yunnan province, then the people in Myanmar, Thailand, and Laos were in trouble. And later in 2021, the amount of water which was held up by China of this river was 50%, which is a very, very big amount, and it affects the fate of all these countries. So that is why all these countries are wanting that there should be a rule-based regional order on the distribution of water which belongs to everybody. Then is the Indus River, which we call Sindh Nadi. Its Tibetan name is Sangye Khaba. It starts from Tibet and then comes to India in Ladakh, enters in Ladakh, and then it goes to Pakistan. Then we have Salween. This river again has been a source of big trouble for the rest of countries, because China has created many, many dams over this river. And as we know, Karnali is a very famous river for Indians. It starts from Mount Kailash, like the Indus River. It also starts from Mount Kailash, and after passing through Nepal, then it joins Ganga. And other than these rivers, the water source from Tibet is the glaciers. And it's very interesting. The number of glaciers in Tibet is enormous. It's more than 46,000. I repeat, 46,000 glaciers. And glacier is a very delicate holder of fresh water, because once the snow falls in high mountains, it settles down there, and at many places it is like glaciers. So then these, like what is happening in India, we are seeing in Himachal Pradesh and other states, water falls by rain, and then you can't hold it, it floods and causes devastation. But nature has created a very kind and beautiful system, that when snow falls in Tibet, in the high mountains, it falls as snow, stored as glaciers, and these glaciers go on melting very slowly, like a mother feeding her child every day. So glaciers are the lifeline, one of the most reliable lifelines of humankind. But unfortunately, what is happening in China, after China occupied and colonized Tibet, the way it is exploiting waters, it is causing a lot of problem. The glaciers are melting because of the very heavy industrial activity in neighboring China, and mining activity which is going on. Because if we talk of the impact of China's what I call ownership of Tibetan rivers, after occupying Tibet illegally and turning it to its own colony, China is behaving like the owner of Tibetan rivers. So in Hindi we say chori ka mal. It is what they have stolen from Tibet, which they are using as a weapon against other countries. And how they are exploiting these rivers, there are so many ways, as some of our friends have already mentioned. There are dams. And what I will tell you, the other dimension of these dams is that the number of dams which China has built over these rivers is far beyond 30,000 dams. Yes, 30,000 plus dams China has built over these rivers, which, if you see the entire world, all the rivers on the earth, all the countries put together, the number of dams China has put on these Tibetan rivers is more than rest of world put together. That would tell us the significance and the dimension of the danger. And other way, what they are doing is more than dams, they are building up. I'll come to that point. Our friend has very elaborately spoken about dam which they are creating on Brahmaputra. They are going to use, they have their plans to produce electricity in such a huge way. I'll come to that point later, that they will use this water to pump the Brahmaputra waters to other provinces of China, which is criminal. It is criminal because the international laws on water do not permit that naturally flowing water should be stored and then stolen with the help of electricity or canals or so. So that is another, the what I call diversion of rivers is the third dimension of it, pumping of water, and then diversion, making dams and then taking those waters far away to other provinces. And as we were talking of the environmental damage, that has damaged the health of rivers, the Tibetan rivers, in a very, very big way. The activities like mining is one of the biggest sources of increasing pollution and silting of these rivers. And we know that Tibet is very rich, not only in Buddhism or spiritual values, it is very rich in minerals. And so far, the data I understand, more than 126 minerals have been already identified, which are mineable in Tibet. These are gold, lithium, chromium, copper, titanium, sulfur. These metals and minerals, which are very, very useful for the industry, China is occupying. Chinese colonialism has given it the power to steal the minerals of Tibet also. And this, there is no control in China over mining. And as we all know, all the rules lie in the mouth of Communist Party of China. So any party, any mining company, whether it is the Chinese or foreigner, they have a free hand to do whatever they want to do, and they have damaged the health of rivers in a very big way. Another is deforestation. In China, people have not discussed about how the Chinese Communist Party and the PLA officials, their senior leaders, they have been running a business of stealing timber from Tibet, and a lot of it was going past without passing into the banks of China or the government of China. This timber has been exported for last more than 70 years to other countries, and the money goes to the pockets of the Communist Party leaders and the PLA leaders. Like what is happening in China, in Pakistan, where the army runs industry, army runs businesses, and money goes to their pockets. But anyhow, Pakistan is not our issue. And the third way of damaging rivers and ecosystem in Tibet is the militarization of the infrastructure in Tibet. very quickly, I will tell you, I have traveled in addition to the Tibet Autonomous Region, I have traveled to all other 4 Chinese provinces where, Tibet, what China did when after occupying in 1951, they were not happy with it. They found the word is protesting against occupation of Tibet by China. So Chinese leaders were worried that one day things may become difficult. So what they did, they divided Tibet into many parts. And one part they identified as Tibet Autonomous Region. They call TAR, Lhasa and the Utsang area. But the remaining parts, which were mostly of other 2 provinces of Kham and Amdo, they were broken into pieces and they were thrown into adjoining Chinese provinces of Yunnan, Sichuan, Qinghai, and Gansu. They were absorbed. And incidentally, 1st September is going to be the anniversary. China is going to celebrate this breaking of Tibet they are going to celebrate as a very special day. We will just wait. And incidentally, my article on this issue has today appeared in Sunday Guardian on the exactly same issue. So the military infrastructure created by China is enormous, beyond our imagination. One example, India took 70 years to decide, 65 years to be exact, to decide that India will connect the border army posts with roads. Earlier, we were afraid. The government policy was that we should not make roads. Otherwise, Chinese military will use those roads and come into India. This was our policy. We were hiding behind our own fears. But it was later in the days of Dr. Manmohan Singh, this wisdom came and the process was started to connect our border posts with roads. And luckily, the current government has given a big speed to that process. And the last count I read is 72 roads have been already almost complete going to the borders. But within Tibet, you will see there are more than 120,000 kilometers of roads which have been made throughout Tibet to connect with China, which is enormous. And then there are military installations, there are airports, there are, new cities are being created to bring in Hans in millions numbers so that the Tibetans are converted into a meaningless minority in their own country. So this infrastructure development has damaged the ecosystem and the rivers in a very big way. Now I come to the point we have been discussing how this water is being used as water bomb, because water bomb is only one of the dimensions in addition to the dimensions I have spoken earlier. Brahmaputra is the main focus of this issue. There have been already many dams made on Brahmaputra in the previous years. And now China is coming up with a super dam. Our friend just now, Ajay ji also mentioned, and our friend Dinong Saab, he also mentioned it. The in area which is called Mitok, and Tibetan name is Pemaku region of Tibet, China is coming up with a new super dam. Why it is called super? Because this station, this system setup of dams has 6 parts. The river Yalung Thampo, the Brahmaputra, is coming to India through a band. And along this band, they have identified a 50-kilometer long straight section where they are creating a tunnel. And then this water will fall in 6 steps. And each step is 400-meter high. Imagine it comes to 2 kilometer and 2.4 kilometers height. And on the way, they will create 6 dams by dropping it at 6 places. And each dam, each hydro station will have 10 million kilowatt capacity. And imagine this is going to be 3 times the gorge, what they call 3 Gorges Dam more than 3 times the capacity of that, which is world's largest one. And if you compare it with to understand how big it is, the size is going to be, or the capacity is going to be 111 times of Bhakra Nangal Dam. 111 times of Bhakra. It will be 27 times bigger than Tihri Dam, which is the largest dam of India. 27 times of Tihri. And then if you put all the 5 first top hydroelectric power systems of India together, this will be 9 times of that. You know, all first top 5 hydro projects put together, and this will be 9 times. And what they are going to use with this electricity for? To pump this water. Number one, store this water, drop it to create electricity, and then pump this water to other parts of China, which means the share of India, the share of Bangladesh is going to be eaten up for that purpose. And it's not only stealing water. China has designs to store this water, and on a crucial day when there is a problem with India, they can release this water suddenly and flood our Arunachal Pradesh, Assam in a very, very big way, which we cannot handle. It's so big. That's why there is now a demand that India should develop small dams across the flow, so that for the danger situation, in advance you can empty them, and so that they can handle this flood water to minimize the damage to India. And there are people who would ask that you people are just anarchists. You are just, talking of conspiracy theories, that China can do it. It is your imagination. You are prejudiced against China. You are jealous of China's progress. You are jealous of China's capacity to do new things or infrastructure. And to those people, the answer is in the, what you say, the pudding is already has been tasted. There have been 3 chances within our memory, my memory, surely, of my age, and many of you also. There have been 3 times when China has already used water as a bomb against India. The very first time was in June 2000. In Arunachal, a dam, the Chinese-made Tibetan dam, was suddenly broke, and there was a devastation in Arunachal Pradesh. And in that flood, more than 100 Indians died, and there was a huge devastation of infrastructure. And later, China was claiming, oh, it was a natural, we don't know how it happened, it can happen, it was an accident. But when the National Water Commission of India, they went deeply into the whole, after the damage was done, they discovered that this whole exercise was man-made. It was a deliberate exercise. And there was another second, which happened only a few weeks after this 2000 June event in Arunachal Pradesh. This happened in Kinnaur in Himachal Pradesh, and where a similar accident happened. China says, oh, it was an accident, we don't know how it happened. But the water which was released suddenly to India, the height of the first wave was 50 feet high. You can imagine 50 feet high water wave entering a country or entering a region will devastate. So up to 200 kilometers of Indo-Tibetan border, Himachal areas were devastated. And the border roads up to around 98 kilometers were totally wiped out. So we can imagine the dimension of the damage this water bomb can do. And then there is a third case, which happened in 2005. If you remember the Parichu event, on the Satluj River, which enters India from Tibet, suddenly there was a landslide. And this landslide was surely not a man-made. It happened suddenly. And this landslide blocked Satluj. And for days together, the water was piling up. it spread up to 230 hectares. It's not a joke. 230 hectares, water is piling up. India wanted, when India came to know when the water flow suddenly stopped, India was worried. The Indian government asked China that please tell us what has happened, and they won't answer. Then when the aerial survey said that they found that there is a big lake of more than 200 hectare which has developed already, the Chinese refused the Indian government to allow its engineers to go and study it. And one day when they discovered that they can't hold it further, the embankment which was facing India was blasted by the Chinese. And the devastation it did was enormous. And, there was so many things which were destroyed, including Nathpa Bakra, Nathpa Jhakri water plant, the power plant of India was completely washed away. The water reached very, very far towns inside Himachal Pradesh. So what we can see today is that this issue of China using water as a bomb, its origin is that it was able to occupy Tibet and convert it into its colony. And unfortunately, the world was sleeping. Today, we are very amazed to see the whole world, especially the Western world, is going mad, beating its chest over when Russia invades Ukraine. So we are wondering, where was the sensitivity of the West when China was invading Tibet? And because China allowed, the world allowed China, especially the Western world, allowed China to invade Tibet, it encouraged the communist world to do what they are doing in places like Ukraine. And they will be doing it again to so many countries. So I conclude with this, this presentation, and my assessment and concluding suggestion is that it is not only India which is going to suffer or is at danger of receiving this water bomb threat from China. It is not only threat of holding water and creating scarcity for the riparian countries. This is a common issue. China can beat every single country if China has to deal with them one by one. But here we have India, we have Pakistan, we have Nepal, we have Bhutan, we have Myanmar, Bangladesh, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam. Minimum these countries can do is to have a joint front to deal with China. China can deal with one country very comfortably. It can't deal with, so many countries. And once these countries join hands, the whole world community will listen to them. And I'm sure once it happens, the danger from China is going to be somewhere tamed. So thank you very much. I apologize for taking so much time.
Thank you, sir, for this elaborate address on how the PLA has been using its forces working against the nature itself. And that is something which I have observed of the CCP, that they have this tendency of disregarding everything, be it nature, be it anything else. They do not have that courtesy to keep other countries in the loop while they are doing such things. They do not respect agreements, and they go back and forth of every border negotiations. We have seen that since the Doklam issue came up. So thank you very much, sir, for shedding such an elaborate light on this topic. And now I like to invite Dr. J. Jagannathan, who is Associate Professor in Center for European Studies from School of International Studies, JNU. He closely follows the PRC and has earlier talked about various aspects of information warfare of PLA against India. Today, he will be talking on the topic of hydro warfare. Jagannathan, sir, over to you.
Thank you, Siddharth.
and thank you for inviting me to speak and share my thoughts. And I really it was enriching listening to my previous speakers, especially Vijay Kranti and Ninam sir. It shows that the issue today we have taken is it's very important, and it's a time to act and also create some sort of more debates in the academic circle, especially in the Indian strategic community, to have more debates on this issue. Um, I worked in Jammu and Kashmir for 10 years, so I have closely followed the Indus water issues, and also been to Ladakh. The problem faced by the pressure from the along the LAC and also LOC. So I have some. I'm still learning a phase of understanding the Chinese behavior in the Trans-Himalayan region. Today, what I'm going to discuss is that since the Vijay Kranti sir has a very detailed analysis about the Chinese behavior and the Chinese dam construction. With your permission, can I just share a small PPT which I would like to share, because I want the audience to just to have sense of understanding about what we are talking about in terms of, maybe you all aware of the maps, but I just wanted to give a sense of understanding about what we are exactly talking about. Is my slide visible? Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is visible.
Yeah, so this is what we are all talking about, the Chinese construction of dams along the Brahmaputra river basin, and behaving as behaving as a rogue upper riparian state, without giving any sort of regards to the lower riparian state. As Vijay Kranti has rightly pointed out, these are the waters of the Tibet, not of the Chinese. So then, legally speaking, any sort of legal framework will make China as a legitimate ownership of these waters, which is actually the Tibetan waters. That is also a problem, a legal problem or legal issues that the Chinese are very smartly exploiting to avoid any sort of water sharing agreement. In 2020, the Chinese have started building the super hydropower dams along the rivers, and that is followed by the 2021, the Chinese 5-year plan, which has approved the construction of a super dam along the Brahmaputra river, or even their side of the river. The constructing of these dams along the upper riparian on the Tibetan waters, I prefer to call it as a Tibetan water, not as a Chinese water. That Brahmaputra Yangtze River does not belong to China, rather it belongs to Tibet. That is there is a question of legality of Chinese constructing these dams without having any sort of regards to addressing the concerns of the lower riparian states. India is not the only lower riparian states, but there are other states like Nepal, Bhutan, like you said, Myanmar, also the lower riparian states sharing the waters. But I find that the Chinese seems to be not in consultation with any of the states when it comes to the sharing. Now the question is, that is the question of the today, is that whether the Chinese can can use this water as a weapon, or are they weaponizing the water? So the answer is very simple. If you go back to the 2017 incident, the Siang River suddenly turned black and muddy, and it became unpotable and poisonous. Then there was a news reported in Indian media first time, especially the Siang River flows into the Assam. There's a tributary of the Brahmaputra River. There are a lot of tests being conducted and found the poisonous elements in the water, and the water cannot be used or consumed, or even it would pollute the entire land mass. The reason for the Siang River turned black was attributed to the Chinese construction of a 1,000-kilometer tunnel in the region and ridges, and that's the debris has been put it in the river, maybe purposefully or unpurposefully, because we cannot do an investigation of that sort. So that is a sort of an eye opener for us to think that whether the China can use this water as a weapon in future. The second aspect, the China's Himalayan super dam, as very clearly explained by my previous speaker, the nuances and the technical details of these dams. I'm just giving this map where the Chinese are building or the massive dam in Tibet that produce electricity, which is much larger than double the amount which has been produced. This is also in sync with the Chinese policy to decarbonize and the commitment to the global carbon emission by 2060. As part of that policy, this is also reflected in the policy framework and to justify their construction of these dams to generate more electricity, to reduce the dependence on the fossil fuels, especially coal. That's a major contribution of that. So now the question is, these are the dams that Chinese are constructing. Now the big question to us in front of us that what are the options before India to deal with this particular crisis? The immediate response from the Indian side is to plan and construct as many as dam possible along the Himalayan region in our side to counter the Chinese dams diplomacy. So there are 76 dams planned on Brahmaputra in Arunachal Pradesh and Assam. But if you look at the figure, that there are only one has been so far constructed. So this is the pace of construction which happens in our part of the side, this part of the side, and this is the other part of the side. The super dam which you're talking about, which created a huge uproar in the Indian side as well. This is exactly located in the tripartite junction of India, China, and Nepal tri-junction, and this is going to be a big impact on the water especially in the Assam and the northeastern states. And this is also a major concern and very important point. So the question is that how to deal with the Chinese the dam construction project. What are the policy options for India? To my mind, I go back to this legal framework that to reassert the thing that the fact that these are the Brahmaputra or the tributaries of the Yangtze River belongs to Tibet. It's a Tibetan water. Not Chinese cannot claim the ownership of this water as first. And to that effect, I think India should rethink its. If China turns or use this water as a weapon or trying to cause flood or drought in the region, we should rethink or we should signal that India should rethink its one China policy of recognizing China, including Tibet as a part of China. I think that is one of the only sort of counter strategy that we can have when it comes to the Chinese this thing. The last year, I think 2 years back, the parliamentary panel also suggested to renegotiate this Indus Water Treaty, and our Pakistan the party to the Indus Water Treaty has been insisting as to renegotiate treaty to include China as one of the party to the Indus Water Treaty. So that is also very shows that it is very clear that there is a China-Pakistan nexus in the Trans-Himalayan region, especially in the reasserting the Chinese the hydro hegemon in the Trans-Himalayan region. So we need to be very cautious in dealing with the water politics or the hydropolitics between the China and Pakistan. Either to de-link the China and Pakistan in the Trans-Himalayan region, or you have to see their nexus and studies. That's a gray area that we need to focus on the scope and nature and scope of the China-Pakistan hydropolitics, cooperation in the hydropolitics, and that's one of the important. The third aspect is that there is lack of transparency from the Chinese side in terms of the sharing the data, and also the structure of these projects and all sort of things. And also, like I mentioned by the previous speakers, there's a lack of institutional mechanism to govern these Brahmaputra river basin. So there is, and all this is because of, to my mind, it is because of that the legality, the legitimate, coming to the question of the legitimacy of who owns the water, whether the Tibet or China. If India proposed to have a water sharing agreement with China, that we have been raising this issue with the Chinese counterpart. However, our media is much more focused only on the border dispute on LAC. And there has been a underplay of the water dispute, if not a proper dispute, but it is emerging as a major source of concern between India and Pakistan, especially in the LAC. That needs to be more studied and more debated within our Indian academic circles and strategic community to understand what is the Chinese behavior in this. So water sharing agreement, any agreement, if you propose, that means you are actually legally legitimizing the Chinese ownership of the Tibetan waters. So then maybe we may lose that leverage vis-a-vis China, like I said, pointed out in the previous before, to rethink about the India's one China policy. So the river basin organization, even if it is even any framework, and given the Chinese strong cooperation between Nepal and Bhutan and other neighboring states, I think India will be again singled out by the Chinese massive proposal and presence. So it's a very sort of a sub-regional dam diplomacy, I would say, or hydro diplomacy, you could call it, and India has to cautiously play vis-a-vis China. So I'll stop here, and I'll look forward to hear more questions. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. And this brings us to this end of the webinar. We had Mr. Michael Jones also to join, but since it's really early morning in New York, he might not be joining today, but we'll look forward to having him in a future session as well. And we also had Mr. Ranju Dudung also, but he had a meeting, so he is not joining right now. So this brings us to the end of this session, and I like to thank all our panel members for to have generously contributed to this very topic, and their profound knowledge and thought-provoking discussion has shed quite some light on this topic, because this is a topic which right now is very relevant for India, and in future time also it will be very, very relevant, since we can see the effect of the damming in Mekong River and the destruction it has brought to all those countries like Laos and Cambodia. There have been communities and even small towns who have been devastated by that. I do hope that there will be some reconciliation and things will turn to a positive way. And with these words, I'll also like to thank all our panel members, Ninong Ering sir, Ajay Dutt sir, Vijay Kranti sir, J. Jagannathan sir, and all our participants who have joined us today for this session. And I'll also like to thank the entire team of Red Lantern Analytica who has worked to organize this webinar in the first place. With these words, on the behalf of Red Lantern Analytica, I express my sincere gratitude to our respected panel members, and I do hope that we will have the pleasure to listening to your views in a future webinar as well. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, Jagannathan sir. Thank you so much, Vijay Kranti sir. And with these words,
Thank you all.
I'll seek your permission to take the lead. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
I
Thank
think Pintu
Thank you, Mr. Jagannath.
Kumar
Thank you,
has Pintu Kumar has put up his hand. Pintu ji, if you have a question, you can put forward to our panelist, or else we'll bring this session to a close.
Yes, sir. I have just a small question, sir.
Sure. We can take your one question, after which we'll bring this session to a close. Please tell what your question is and to which panel member you will like to ask that question to.
Please introduce yourself before you put your question.
Yes,
Brief
sir.
introduction.
Myself is Pintu Kumar Mella, and I am doing my PhD from the Central University of Jammu under the supervision of J. Jagannathan sir. And I am working on the hydropolitics of the Trans-Himalaya regions, basically covering the China, Pakistan, India, and 3 countries. So, firstly, it was a great presentations by the Vijay sir and Jagannathan sir. But I have a small question on the militarizations of the infrastructure in the Tibet. So, sir, how can a country militarize the dam regions? Because what can be the ways to militarize the dam hotspots? This is a small questions from to the Vijay sir.
Me, you ask this question, me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I have been studying Tibet and China since 1972. I started. And incidentally, this is my 50th year. So within my limitations of knowledge and wisdom, I would try to answer a part of your question. As far as militarization of either dams is concerned or waters is concerned, I don't think this is the only area, or because the water is flowing from Tibet to India or to other countries, so China can use it as a weapon. It is the state of mind of China which has the capacity to convert every possible resource and every situation for the purpose of militarization of relations. So they have done it earlier on every account. For example, their presence inside Tibet, which I always term it as illegal presence in Tibet because they occupied it. They have been using their presence in Tibet to militarize its relations with India. Otherwise, before 1951, for if you go behind in history 100 years, 200 years, 500, 1000 years, along these 4,000 kilometers, we didn't have China on other side for one day on 1 inch of this area. Never had it, never. It was only after 1951 that Indo-Tibetan border overnight became India-China border. Chinese army crossed across Tibet and came to our borders. And then using their presence in Tibet, they started threatening us. They attacked India in 1962. And after that, they have been using presence in Tibet in so many ways of militarizing relations. For example, the Naxalbari movement or the Maoist movement of India, its umbilical cord lies inside Tibet or in hands of China. They got their training, they got their resources, money, they got their ammunition and arms training from China in Tibet area. For many of these anti-India or separatist movements of Northeast India, Northeastern Indian states, their center was always Tibet, and China has been using, their training camps were stationed there, their all other support system was Tibet. So this is how they militarized this, their presence in Tibet. So similarly, they have been doing it in a way against Nepal. They are doing it against Bhutan. Militarizing their, using their presence in Tibet and occupying villages of Nepal or of India. That is same thing. So if they are using water, unfortunately, because they don't believe in rule of law, they don't believe in international law or international opinion. So they are free to use or to militarize this water. Otherwise, if they were a wise people, they could have used this water resource to make friendship with all riparian states, the 12 other countries. They could have improved their relation, telling them, okay, you have water shortage, here it is. So I think the problem is not in water. The problem is in the mind of Chinese. The problem is in the thinking of the Chinese Communist Party and its leaders. So as long as China is ruled by this section of people, this kind of people, the Communist Party or those people who believe in Sun Tzu's philosophy, this problem is going to remain. They will use even air as a weapon. They will use anything.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
For answering this question. And with this, we'll bring this session to a close, and I'll seek the permission of our respected panel members, Jagannathan sir and Vijay Kranti sir, for permitting us to bring this session to a close. It has been a pleasure listening to all your views, sir.
All of you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, for us also it was a pleasure.
Thank you, sir.
And Dr.
Sir, I hope
Jagannathan.
to
it
meet
was
you, sir.
pleasure listening.
If you are in Delhi, we'll meet. We'll catch up, sir.
Sure, sir, sure. We'll share
Okay.
our number with through
Siddharth.
Red Lantern. Yeah,
Yeah, I'll get
Absolutely.
it. Thank you, sir.
yeah. We'll share it.
Thank
I
you.
live in Delhi. I am stationed in Delhi permanently.
Definitely, sir. Sure, sir. Thank you.
Right, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you
Thanks,
so much.
Siddharth.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Shalini.
Namaskar.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Great, good evening.
Thank you.